A huge thank you to Jeff Holmes for bringing you today's video via Patreon. Ovika versus Vishgraz with a decent amount of control in hand, so we will try that one. Just a tap land for our opponent. We draw into unwind, so not doing too well getting into the ramp, unfortunately. Okay, seeing Concordant Crossroads from our opponent. Unusual to get that out so soon. We're looking to get down a bunch of hasty creatures anyway, so that doesn't really matter. Really praying for a land or ramp here, and it's a tap land, but that's fine. Then it's a Knight's Whisper from our opponent, and dropping a land into play for turn, staying at 7 cards in hand. Drawing 2 and play a Swiftfoot Boots. Don't think we need to worry about holding up Unwind or Snap or anything. Want to hold on to Mana Drain for hopefully countering the commander. That will give us the 5 generic mana we need for the Ovika, so we can use it as a ramp spell. A Plague Mere for our opponent, so yeah, they're missing a piece of coloured mana at the moment. Maze of Ith doesn't get them any closer, although Maze of Ith against these Swiftfoot Boots is absolutely relevant. Plague Mere deals the first point of infect damage to us. Alright, and a Reliquary Tower is fine. I'm assuming that we're going to be seeing our opponent's commander next turn. Otherwise I'll regret not getting down the reconnaissance mission, but I think it's worth holding up the mana drain to go for the Ovika next turn. Alright, our opponent does get a land in, but it's a tap land, so won't be seeing the commander here. Chromatic Lantern for our opponent. We'll fix the colours, just make sure they can make black with this, yes. Yeah, I don't particularly care about them having a Chromatic Lantern. It will gain them a mana from the Maze of Ith, but we'll save our counter magic for something more worthwhile. So, should have got down the reconnaissance mission in hindsight. Alright, Singan imprisoned in the moon now. Yeah, we're just continuing to wait for our opponent's commander. Alright, so now seeing the Vishgraz, they will get a scry, so I'll let them scry first. It might dictate what they put on top of the library before seeing the counterspell. And then it's what we've been waiting for the past few turns, the ramp that we need for our Ovika. And then I'm not sure that the snap really helps here. We don't particularly care about having the Maze of Ith tapped down, so we'll just let our opponent swing in here. Draw into Obelisk of Erd, and we'll get 5 mana from the mana drain. And cast the Ovika, put the Swiftfoot Boots on there straight away. Can't remember if Ward... Yeah, I can't remember if Ward counts towards abilities actually. I think it is just hexproof, isn't it? But yeah, maybe the Maze of Ith would have been useless anyway. Maybe, if that's the case, could have held up the snap. Regardless, we will swing in with our commander for the first 6 points of commander damage. My opponent just told me that he's a friend of the channel as well, Resurrect, so big thank you to my opponent for watching the channel. So down comes the Vishgraz again, and we can throw an Imprisoned in the Moon onto it thankfully. It does have haste though, so we go up to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 infect this turn. Now we need to hope that our opponent doesn't have some kind of overrun effect. Don't want to be seen trample against our tokens. We do get into another land, so drop the land. We can play a Seething Song because that will immediately replace itself, give us some extra mana. So that will allow us to snap. We can put that onto the Vishgraz to force them to replay it next turn. And snap is effectively free because it allows us to untap some lands. So this will get us some blue mana back. So then I think we can go for the reconnaissance mission is fine. Makes us some more goblin tokens. And then the Obelisk of Erd will put 2 mana into it. And then we'll convoke some of the goblins as well, because they're instantly going to be replaced by other goblin tokens anyway. So tapping down 4, putting 2 mana into it, we make 6 tokens with this, and they're all about to be buffed up to 3/3s. So we name Phyrexian with this, because our commander is Phyrexian as well, even though it's not a goblin. Of course the goblin tokens are Phyrexian goblins. And just like that, we've got lethal on our opponent here. So I'll just hold back some blockers just in case, but definitely got enough on our opponent here. And we'll draw a bunch of cards in the process as well. And our opponent goes down to -1. Don't like the reconnaissance mission style cards usually, but yeah, with Ovika getting down the hasty goblin straight away, ready to swing in immediately, it makes a massive difference, so it kind of enables itself in a weird way if your commander's in play. Again, big thank you to my opponent for being a viewer of the channel. We'll try another one. Ovika versus Kozilek this time with no ramp, and I'm sure Kozilek is going to be full of ramp. Yeah, So I think we're going to have to take a mulligan on that and hope that we actually get into some lands. Yeah, that's pretty bad, but yeah, I don't want to go any further than that, but I think we have to, annoyingly. Alright, that's looking a lot better. We will keep that one. We can get out the fjord with a fetch land, get rid of impact tremors as well. And I will bring out that fjord again at the end of my opponent's turn 1. Ghost Quarter from my opponent will have to be wary of. See the shared animosity again. So we could go for a Jeska's Will pretty quickly here. We won't have any blue mana for our commander though. So let's just hope our opponent doesn't do too much next turn, because we might be able to get out our Ovika quite quickly with the Jeska's Will. They go down to 6 cards in hand, and they've always got the fast mana in a Kozilek deck. You do have a surplus of card slots in Kozilek because it's completely colourless, of course, so stands to reason that they would often get into the mana rocks that they need. Alright, there's a Seething Song for us. So we're a mana away from being able to make use of Seething Song. We're going to have to use the Jeska's Will here, unfortunately. But this will allow us to get down our commander on turn 3, which is pretty good. So make the 6 mana from the Jeska's Will, 1 blue mana from the Volatile Fjord, and I think we're going to be able to rely on the ward pretty nicely here. Okay, and our opponent decides that we're going too fast and decides to scoop that one up. Playing against partners Tevesh, Sat and Chrome this time. And we have... yeah, it's pretty slow actually. If these lands came in untapped, then we'd be alright, but yeah, going to have to try a mulligan on there, I think. We're going to be too slow against our opponent. Get back into the Wayfarer's Bauble is good, so yeah, we'll try keeping that, get rid of the Junk Winder. We are on the draw at least. Seeing a Ragavan on turn 1 from our opponent. That'll have to eat a Reality Shift eventually. Draw into Perforos, so it'll just have to be a Wayfarer's Bauble for us. Our opponent hits us, exiles a mountain off the top of our library, which, yeah, feels bad. I would have liked to have got down a land here. They cracked the treasure straight away for a talisman, and we were going to draw into Castle Vantress anyway, so drop a land and we'll have to go Reality Shift onto the monkey before it deals any more damage to us. Now we see Mystical Tutor from our opponent, and with that they went for Culling the Weak to make some black mana, so really trying to rush out their Tevesh Sat. The manifested creature deals 2 damage to us first, then sacrificing that to make 4 black mana. Tapping down the talisman allows them into their commander. That ticks up for a couple of thralls. Alright, that's looking good for us. There's a Mana Vault, so we'll have 4 lands next turn. So if we play the Mana Vault now, we'll be able to get down our commander next turn. So we'll play out the Mana Vault and pass to our opponent, hope that we keep that in play. Tevesh Sat sacrificing a thrall to draw some cards. Been missing lands all game, so if we can get rid of their commander, then they'll be in a pretty tough spot as far as I can tell. Tapping down their blue mana is good. See a Brainstorm. And then they get down an Ancient Tomb into the Grim Monolith. It's noteworthy that the Grim Monolith will be able to pay for the ward on the Ovika. I'm not sure that they'll want to use it for that, but yeah, I mean, if they're not going to want us to untap with Ovika, which makes total sense, then maybe they will do that. There's a Grim Monolith of our own, so let's go after Ovika. And like I said, we just have to pray that we manage to untap with the Ovika at this point. Imperial Seal from our opponent, and they are going to be able to play whatever it is that they tutor for here, because they'll likely draw it with the Tevesh Sat. So they do draw into whatever it was with the Tevesh Sat. We now see a Displacer Kitten. Casting Mox Opal will flicker something, probably the Grim Monolith, maybe some coloured mana. And they did decide to flicker the Talisman. Then getting down a tap land. Now our opponent going for something during our upkeep. That is a Cyclonic Rift. Yeah, they can afford the ward because they've got a mana here, they've got a mana floating, and Displacer Kitten is going to untap the Grim Monolith. And then after that we see a Dress Down, and that flickers the Grim Monolith again. They're just using that to draw a card. We will see that sacrificed at the end of the turn. Get into a land, which I'm not against. So let's just throw out the Grim Monolith, and we'll once again be able to get out the Ovika next turn, but we'll need to make it through another turn cycle. And looking like a very spiky deck, like I said, against my opponents, so this deck's never really going to tangle against those. It's a high power deck, but it's not like CEDH level like this might be. Not sure, I don't know anything about CEDH. Tevesh Sat making some more Thrall tokens, followed by a Gamble with 3 cards in hand, flickering the Grim Monolith again. They discarded a Tainted Pact, so I'm guessing that they've got the Thassa's Oracle combo in here. Jeweled Lotus, flickering the Mox Opal this time. And then we see a Wheel of Fortune, so yeah, I don't hate that. The Ovika is going to go back into the command zone and have some command attacks added to it, but our hand's not any good anyway. It's really my opponent's hand I'd be worried about. They discarded an Ad Nauseam. Noteworthy that we did draw into a Vandal Blast, which should be pretty good against my opponent's all my opponent's rocks here. Gitaxian Probe means that they will know about our Vandal Blast. Cracking the Jeweled Lotus means they're going to get out the Chrome. And then we see Bergie as well. And it looks like next turn they'll be able to gain control of our Ovika. They play out the Sol Ring and then hitting us for 6. Alright, and we draw into our very casual card, Distant Melody. So we go for the Misty Rainforest. That can just be a tap land, and we're going to overload the Vandal Blast. Our opponent taps down a bunch of mana in response to that, and it does hit our opponent. We'll pass through to the beginning of combat, see if they want to do anything with all that. That is an opposition agent, so I will go for the Misty Rainforest now. Our opponent gets a red mana from the Bergie, 3 cards left in hand. And we're just hoping for a board wipe at this point, but we can't even tutor for it thanks to the opposition agent. So minusing down the Tevesh Sat will gain control of the Ovika, and they gain control of their own commander, so it comes straight back in and they make... don't think they made a couple of Thrall tokens, they ticked up 1, so drawing some cards to that. Now we see Heuristic Study with 4 cards in hand, and Ovika gonna start making a bunch of tokens. Not sure what they flickered there, but they could have flickered the Tevesh Sat and then drawn even more cards with it, but decided not to. So swinging in at us with a bunch of creatures, we go down to 12 and we pretty much just pass the turn next turn. Cabal Ritual. Yeah, and they are pointing Displacer Kitten at their commander now. Sacking a Goblin draws them a couple of cards. Now we see March of Swirling Mist. That is X6 and it's targeting everything you see here. Displacer Kitten going to flicker the Tevesh Sat again. Tevesh Sat draws more cards. Mana Vault. Tevesh draws. And obviously there's a bunch of phased out stuff here. We will be able to search our library, which is noteworthy, but it's not going to be of much use to us. We're just looking to pass straight over to our opponent here, most likely. So we'll go Polluted Delta, shock in a land, Solemn Simulacrum, whilst we can still search our library. Give our opponent a card. And then just for the hell of it, let's go for the Distant Melody. We can draw 1 card with that. Gets us into Sol Ring and Impact Tremors, and we lose from here. Okay, looks like our opponent's been respectful, has 11 cards in hand, but we have tapped out, so it's obvious that we don't have anything. And they are just going to swing in for lethal. So there we are. Like I said, there's a lot of spiky players on tonight, so I'm going to call it a day there. Our Ovika deck isn't going to stand up against all these types of decks. Hopefully you all enjoyed the games anyway. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.